Hey, 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 good evening and happy new year to you. It is amazing that we have crossed over into a new year, 2021. It has been such a delight to come to you throughout the year of 2020, bringing to you the Ask the Doctors broadcast. So come on in the room, all of those who are watching. It is grateful. I am grateful to be here with you all on another Friday episode. And I am grateful for everyone who's going to go back and watch this again, a replay. I've said so often, we get twice as many views through those people who go back and watch the replay. So again, if that is you, believe me, I am grateful. Hope Health Systems is grateful for you going to watch this entirety. Again, happy new year to you. In the comment section, go ahead and let me know you're watching. Let me know how you've been spending the day. It's a cold, rainy day out here in Baltimore, Maryland. So it's been a day to be inside, just to enjoy your family, enjoy being at home, just enjoying another year to be to see another year, another day to be alive, and yeah, just grateful. Really am just grateful. I was just reflecting even this morning as I was just preparing, reading the Word, and just reading some other things just to stimulate my mind, and just started getting overwhelmed, just thinking about all that has happened in 2020 and the fact that I have survived. And yet, you don't have to be a certain age to survive, truthfully. We know many people who have succumbed to the COVID-19, to the coronavirus, or to any other illnesses out there. And so, again, we're grateful that you are joining us on this evening. So, with that said, I just want to bring you greetings from Hope Health Systems, Chief Medical Director there. I've been serving there for over 9 years. Glad to be here. Ask the Doctors broadcast is sponsored by Hope Health Systems. And if you're in need of mental health services, we'll do you some good. Come on over. HopeHealthSystems.com is our website. We have a wonderful discussion that is planned for you today, as we do each Friday. And I really want you to stay tuned and really look into this series. We're going to be developing a series, I have developed a series on living your best life. And today is talking about living well in 6 different areas of your life. And so I am so excited that I have 3 panelists and presenters who are going to join me. I have mad respect for them. Mad means I have great respect for them. And so I am so glad that they are here with me. And those 6 areas, just before I bring them on, 6 areas, SIP and C. It is spiritual, intellectual, physical, social, economical, and emotional. We want you to be well in all 6 of those areas. Wow. Is it possible, Dr. Shep? Oh, yes, it is possible. And what a better way to start out this year, learning how to live well in all of those areas. So we're going to talk about that today. I'm ready. I see Mr. Cruz Sherman, who is the CEO of Cruz Media Enterprise there in Richmond. He's watching with us. I know many others are watching out there. Go ahead and just put your say something in the comments. Let me know that you are out there. Happy New Year to you. And again, share, like, and let somebody know that Ask the Doctors is back on the air. All right, let's go ahead and let's introduce the panelists that we have today. I'm going to start with the person who I have known the longest out of the 3. And that is Derek Scott. And come on in, my brother. How are you, sir?
Hey, friend, I am doing well. You know, it's 2021, so I cannot complain.
Yeah. And happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I appreciate that. And happy New Year to your family. Now Derek has a wonderful family now. Yeah, he's a father. Father of many. Is he?
Father of many. Hopefully they come back and take care of me one day.
Oh, man. Anything you want to let the people know about your profession or anything that you do before I introduce other guests?
Well, as you said, I am a father of seven children, all under the age of 12. So busy house around here. That's what I do as my full-time job as I father. And then on the side, I do development in the city of Detroit. I lead a development company on the east side of Detroit doing what we call inclusive neighborhood development, working with small business owners, to grow their businesses and companies. And I'm also a full-time minister as well, ordained in the Church of God in Christ, and so active in my local ministry. But everything in between, just making sure that I stay busy and keep my hands occupied until he comes, as the old saints would say.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah. Come on. Come on. Come on, Derek. I have mad respect for you. And so thank you. And he's going to add some great insight. One of the great minds of not just of this generation, I believe in future generations to come. Yes, he was born at a certain time, but I believe that his intellect will far exceed where he is even right now. So, yes, sir.
Honored to know you, man.
Yes, sir.
Honored to be here.
All right. Next up, and she is a woman who I have watched for years and didn't even realize that we would come to know each other in the way in which we would at the same church. And this is Mrs. Ariel Ward. How are you?
I'm good. I'm thankful to be on. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. A happy new year to you.
Happy New Year, Dr. Shepherd.
Yeah, yeah. And I see your husband is joining us. I saw him commenting, and have mad respect for him too. And their little one Jackson.
Mhm.
Yeah. How old is Jackson now?
Jackson's 2.5. Jackson will be 3 in May.
Wow, man.
Flying by.
It has so much energy.
Yeah,
Oh my Lord.
flying.
So yeah. So go ahead, tell the people what you do, and so we can move on further here.
Yes, sir. Bless you, Dr. Shepherd, and thank you for this opportunity and to share and converse with Derek and those. I know you didn't introduce him yet, so I won't say, but an honor and a privilege to be here. I am an educator. I'm a teacher
Mhm.
for 12 years in mathematics education, and I'm still currently a teacher. I'm an adjunct professor at Knoxville Colleges online, and I've done that for about a year.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I've done it about a year, Dr. Shepherd. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the
Come
online.
on here.
Yeah, an online thing, and I'm a wife, a mother, a woman of God, an ordained evangelist, or sorry, I don't know if you say ordained because you're a woman, but I'm an evangelist in the Church of God in Christ. I'm a chair lady of Maryland Central, and a member of Carter Church. I am saved, sanctified, and Holy Ghost filled.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. That's right. That's right. That's right. Let us know. Keep us in check. Everybody. That's right. So, so happy for you joining us today. Really am privileged. And as you see, she holds many hats. Didn't know about that as far as the adjunct professorship. That's awesome.
Thank
And
you.
I'm going to be doing a show soon about the whole college piece and how that has changed because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So great. Glad you are joining us. And then next up is Cody Kelly, another young man. And so I am so proud to have met him during the pandemic. Know his family, have known his family for a long time. And yeah, come on in. Tell us a little bit about yourself, sir. And so we can move this train forward.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I finally made it to ask the doctors, even though I'm not a doctor. So I feel like my honorary Kojic doctorate is on the way. So thank you for that and that vote of confidence. Senior account exec, sales professional. I specialize in technology solutions for organizations. And in my spare time, I host a podcast called It Is What It Is, a podcast where Dr. Shepherd and the Right Reverend Derek Scott, who will be the Black Jeff Bezos one day, has been on. Ariel, I look forward to having you one day real soon. But it's just, we cover a host of variety of topics, and I'm just looking forward to get into this. And Happy New Year to everyone out there. I am married, I almost said wife, but husband of one wife, I guess ordained elder in the Grand Church of God in Christ. I think I'm here just for the entertainment. So I look forward to this. I look forward to getting into it with you.
No, you're not here for the entertainment. I
We
love
will
it.
be entertained though.
Oh yes, yes we will. Yes we will. Yes we will. All right. So let's get this train started. So we're talking about living well, right? Living well in these 6 different areas: spiritually, intellectually, physically, socially, economically, and emotionally. So what I want you all to do is just start out talking about the lessons that you've learned. I should say that you have personally learned during this year of 2020. There's been so much that has occurred. I know if I just start talking, it'll fill up the whole show as to what I've learned this year. But again, I want to hear from you and from your perspectives, because as you are talking, I also want to switch, and you can put it in as you're talking. But we're going to get to what things should the COVID-19 pandemic permanently kill. So, what am I saying? What things should we leave behind in 2020? So let's talk about the lessons we've learned, and then what things we should not carry over into 2021. And this will help us in setting a foundation for this discussion on about living well. All right. So Derek, why don't we start with you? All right.
Sure. So let me first say I'm probably cheating a little bit because as you know, I'm familiar with S.I.P as something that came up in the church we grew up in Chicago. It was something that was very present. And so I can't say enough how much just that 6-letter acronym really helped me prepare for 2020. And so I need to say that because my perspective on 2020 may be a little different than the general consensus, in that every year my wife and I, for as long as I can remember, we've been married going on 14 years now. We've been together 19 years. And since we've been together, every year at the top of the year, we go through our goals, and we set a goal in each of these areas: spiritually, intellectually, physically, socially, emotionally, economically, for our family. And what it has allowed us to do is really stay on task for pursuing purpose in our marriage, in our family, in our careers, in our education. And so 2020 for us, we came in saying these are the things that we know we need to hit and we need to do, and making sure that there was a plan in place. And so when the pandemic did hit, while there was some deviation to our plan, I think we weren't rocked to our core, because all of this sort of preaching of preparation and being ready, admonishing us to consider the ant and store in times of plenty, and when things are well, make sure you're preparing for when things are well, so that you realize that a storm is going to come one day. And so I can, really say that we had done a really good job of being prepared for what happened in 2020. So when it hit, it didn't shake my family as hard as some other families got hit. And I don't say that in a very sort from a position of kind of elitism, but I say that from the position of saying that how important it is to make sure that you have a plan in place. And I think one of the things that I learned in 2020, and what COVID-19 hopefully kills for me, is any remnant of procrastination, any remnant of wastefulness, any remnants of just sort of taking for granted that time is always going to be there, that you're always going to be able to accomplish something. I think what it did for me is reinforce the idea of making sure that not only you plan, but that you also don't waste time in executing, and that you don't waste time in making sure you got a little set aside economically to make sure your family is, secure in the time of need, or when things like this hit. And it's not to say that it's gonna be perfect, but it definitely helps you weather the storm in the way that we saw our family sort of weather even some of the impacts that we had to endure throughout 2020. And so for me, really watching just my more extended family, my immediate family, kind of go through the year, I think there was a lot of things that I originally took for granted that we had in place, that the pandemic helped me say, man, it was really worth the time and investment in making sure that these things were in place, that these things were in order. So that way, the next time something comes, I feel like I will not have wasted time in being diligent and putting those things into play. And while I realize that's not everybody's sort of testimony right now, I think I feel more comfortable saying it now because for people to hear that, I think it's worth saying, yeah, if I make the effort now, that it doesn't mean bad things won't happen. It just means I'll be better prepared for them when they do happen.
Right.
Gotcha. All right, Ariel.
For me, I believe the things that COVID-19 should permanently kill. For me, carnality. I think the unnecessary spending, as far as being a female, just on the phone, buying things that you don't need. I mean, I know a lot of us gonna
Wow.
just killing the carnality, the dependence on the things, the material things, the temporal, the things that don't matter, the things trivial, because really, only what you do for Christ will last, and you really realize how much life is just too short. It's just short. And so, if I could say anything about the things that I believe COVID-19 should permanently kill, is taking life for granted, division in families, unnecessary spending, the unnecessary ripping and running. Also, I believe that it showed us a different way of living our lives and really taking these moments to enjoy family and to get things right where they were wrong.
Right.
To see like, wow, this relationship is not quite right. Let's get this right. Because now you've taken that time to meditate and really see and really hone in on that time with God and with self, and you couldn't go anywhere, you couldn't do much. Okay. And so now you're really seeing things for what they truly are. And so my prayer is that COVID-19 will kill that spirit of carnality and division in our families.
Wow. Now let me just say something before we go to Cody. Now you just told these people now unnecessary spending. Now all these people been spending on Amazon. Now,
be included.
And one of the things I've been researching is there's a thing called Amazon guilt. I had never heard of this. Have you ever heard about Amazon guilt? Amazon guilt is the feeling when you watch someone else drop packages at your door while you're safely inside. I had never heard of that. That's one of those things that has been developed in this year of 2020.
Right.
So I just want to kind of highlight that. I won't be doing it as we're talking here.
Right.
Thank you.
Was created during the pandemic is so funny. Like they call Monday through Friday, what your days are like running together, and which day it is because you've just been in a house Monday through Friday. So they call it Thursday.
Thursday. Yep.
People use as a Blur's Day. It's
Blur's Day.
Blur's Day. Like
I've never heard of that.
Yeah. Have a whole list of new vocabulary now.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's just something that, some of these things that we have encountered during this year of 2020. Wow. So Cody, come on. What lessons have you learned, and what things do you see yourself permanently killing, or hope that I shouldn't say you killing, but COVID-19 may have permanently killed?
Well, I don't suffer from Amazon guilt because I'm a frequent purchaser of products on Amazon. It is my home away from home, in between Zoom meetings, in between prayer conferences, in between church, in between the gym. I'm usually on Amazon looking at stuff. So I think one of the things for me that I've learned that you cannot take, or that COVID had to kill, was pride. And what I mean by that, I think sometimes, even in a spiritual sense, we do things or we operate in a certain function because we feel like we have to validate ourselves. And one of the things I had to get to a point in my own life is that only God can validate me, right? Like I don't have to do this or be this or have this style of methodology to feel important, right? Because sometimes we look for the shock value, and I'm guilty of it. I think we're all guilty of it. I know even within, my own podcast, right? Looking at ways to kind of turn it up a notch, right? But really, is it for vanity or is it for really creating value, right? So something that I've really been trying to focus on has just been intentful on serving others. I want to go into 2021 as a servant. You know, I know everybody wants to go in as a leader, but I want to be a servant more than anything. So something that I particularly been focusing on is just getting rid of the clutter and the negativity, and being or allowing myself to serve those in leadership. I really feel like not only the church and not only the United States as a whole, but we have a lot of people in position that care more about the position than the people that they serve. And I don't want to be one of those individuals, right? It is not perfect. The church is not perfect. God knows the United States is not perfect. But I really want to focus heavily on just improving it day by day. So it's something that I take into 21 is I am committed to servitude. And I think that's my 2021 kind of focus right there.
That's great. That's great. So we started out with the first S, okay, which is spiritual. So thank you. And we've just flowed very naturally into that. So what I want to do now is talk about the intellectual. So what are some of the things, some solutions, some things that you've learned even intellectually this year? I'm sorry, last year now, but things that you learned in 2020 and that you want to carry over into 2021, so we can help those who are watching to be able to live well. Some of the things I've learned, and I know that Ariel, she's going to address some of these things, being a teacher as she is. 50 some percent of our, actually, it's not 50, 30% of our students as of the fall of 2020. I'm looking at my notes here. 30% of our students were not active users or engaged in the virtual schooling platforms. That is troublesome, you all. That concerns me. That concerns me as a consumer. It concerns me as a man. It concerns me as an uncle, as a one who wants to see children do well. That really bothers me. Um, Online programs, yes, they are there, but what do we do? And I'm asking, I guess, a myriad of questions here, but this charge against our intellect is there. And 2020 has really come against how we can learn, especially for our youth in this year 20 in the year 2020, and now as we move into 2021. Hopefully I'm making my point clear here. So I want to see, and actually I want to start with our Ariel, because she's a teacher, and I want to just hear, what lessons did you learn in 2020, and what things do we need to be promoting moving forward into 2021? And then we're going to go to Derek and Cody.
Right. Great question, Dr. Shepard. As an educator on Zoom, I noticed that there's sort of, it's not as personal. So the students who are more special needs, the special needs population is struggling a little bit more with staying in touch and interacting with that technology. So the schools right now are starting to kind of adopt that transitional program where they do like a hybrid setting. I learned as a virtual educator that there is sort of a struggle more so with the special needs population who has an IEP, or sort of like an individual like plan in the classroom. They get more time to do work. They get up, they walk out, use the restroom whenever they need a break. A lot of the students are getting on there and they're turning their cameras off. So you really don't know what they need. You're not sure if they're even sitting at the computer listening to you. But the students who are able to, excel, they are doing well. So we're seeing a shift in the students who are more advanced or can handle the responsibility of a virtual learning situation, because it takes maturity to sit at a computer. It takes discipline to sit at a computer. It takes interest, natural curiosity to sit at the computer and want to know what you're talking about from a computer screen. I learned how to use platforms like Nearpod, interactive, that you can see what the kids are working on in real time. It's almost like everybody has a stylist and you can see them doing the work. I use that platform to help the students that need more engagement, that need that, hands-on. So I did learn that, which was really cool. And it helps me to see what they understand and what they don't understand. So the problem is now that we're trying to, as teachers, strain ourselves to reach the students who are special needs and the students who need who don't need as much. But we're there in the field of education, we've already kind of adopted a hybrid structure. So what that means is right now we're still fully virtual, but when we go to the next phase, the option is there for parents to decide on whether they want their child to be homeschooled or an in-person learning. Okay. So they'll have that option. The option is given first to the parents who have special needs children. Gotcha. So the special needs population gets that option so that when we come back to school, they'll have the first dibs on, and I should say, for lack of better words, first dibs on in classroom instruction or the traditional learning setting. So each room, like with that said, each room has like a webcam where the teacher has to teach traditionally to the special needs students and, attend the Zoom and to teach both the special needs population and the students who are still at home at the time. This is the innovation that's happening in the field of education. Is it doable? Yes, for the teachers who are willing to work on that struggle, for the teachers who want to know something, want to learn and don't mind the grit behind the new way of doing things. But I kind of foresee that we may lose some educators to the new challenges that it presents, for teachers to be strained that way, to have to teach, online and, and in person, because now you're going to need two different plans. You're going to need a virtual plan and you're going to need an in-person traditional learning plan. So we'll meet the needs of the students, but the ones who are really thin here will be the educators. But I mean, it's always, a different way do I think that they'll keep that structure as we move into the next phase of, the pandemic, or like, as things progress and get better? I think I believe it's here to stay, because even though some resist the change, it will be near impossible to not to offer the option, because now many families found that they prefer partial homeschooling and online learning for their children instead, especially for the college students and the high school level learners who it's more cost effective than staying on campus. The parents who, can handle the balance of, kind of hovering over and making sure their child is paying attention in class. I think the question arises that if we give students the option, will the educators and teachers also have the option to telework? Will they also have that option? Would they have the option to hybrid model or traditional learning? Would they open up, a way for teachers to just do hybrid, a way for teachers to just do virtual, the way for teachers to just do traditional? You understand what I'm saying? Because then you'll get a bunch of educators who want to do what they applied for, instead of pushing everybody to do what they don't want to do. You're not going to get passion in teaching doing it that way. You have to and that is, so it is with ministry. You're not going to do it if you're not passionate about it. You're going to do it no matter what. It doesn't matter if you're passionate about that thing, you're going to do it. And the same thing is with the field of education. When teachers are, brought in, you want to make sure that that's something that they want to do. So I believe the option is going to come open, and I've been in the field of education for all these different innovations and ways to reach all these learners. Because as you said, and even the statistic that you mentioned, we have to do something to reach the population that didn't do so well. And then you have another population who did wonderful from home.
Gotcha. Derek, why don't you jump on in here regarding this field of intellect?
So we talk about intellectual. I think Ariel hit it on the spot with the homeschooling piece and things that we got to address educationally. But I think when There's two statistics that recently jumped out at me that I thought were kind of startling. One is that during the pandemic, the use of social media has gone up roughly 78 to 90%, right? And not only has it increased drastically, but also there's, and I hate giving statistics with a mental health expert on the line, but this one directly related the increased use of social media and correlated it to mental health issues like depression and anxiety and fear.
Absolutely.
Right. And so folks who are depressed or have more anxiety tend to go onto social media more often. They're looking for an outlet or an escape. And I think what intellectually I'd say what I encourage people is think about the amount of time that we're spending on all of these other things that have become more prevalent during the time of the pandemic, like Netflix. We're streaming more. We're on social media more. We're doing a lot more things on the internet and virtually, and that's time away from things that we can be doing to increase our intellectual capacity and learning more. I always say that anybody who's not learning is not growing, and anything that's not growing is dying. And so the moment you stop learning, the moment you stop growing is the moment you start dying, actively dying.
Wow.
And so we have to continue to challenge our brain. We have to continue to challenge ourselves to grow intellectually and set goals for ourselves to say, even if you have a degree, 2 degrees, 3 degrees, what are you doing to continue to strengthen your education? Is there a book that you could be reading in place of the time that you're spending on social media? What are the books that you're going to challenge yourself to read this year? Right. If you have never read a book before, I wouldn't encourage you to start with 10 books on your reading list. I'd encourage you to start with 1 book on your reading list. Right. If you read 2 last year, bump it up to 5 or whatever the case may be. But do something that challenges you. And not just fiction books, but find something nonfiction that can help sort of challenge you to grow in a particular area that you've always wanted to grow in. And so I think these are moments right now where we can really sort of sharpen ourselves intellectually. There are folks who have been dying to go back to school, and this is the perfect time. Schools are trying to figure out creative ways to get people into the door. Tuition prices, while they've gone up, financial aid has also gone up. And internet options have gone up for education. So schools that did used to allow you to come and enroll in their program in a virtual or e-distance program, you now have options for e-distance. Harvard has an e-distance program that you don't have to be Harvard level to get into Harvard's e-distance program. You can start taking some of those classes right now. MIT has some. Princeton. So these Ivy League schools are now offering courses that you as an average Joe who you don't need a high ACT score or a prolific GPA, you can simply go and challenge yourself to do some of these things. So I think I would encourage people to set goals, intellectual goals for this year, and then seek ways to sort of push the limits on your understanding of certain areas. If there was something that you always wanted to pivot to career-wise, is a perfect opportunity to start thinking about how do I challenge myself intellectually to start making some of the investment in myself that's needed to go in that direction.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And to Derek's point about reading a book, finding, feeding that your mindset, feeding your mind with books that you can find a book on your craft and perfect your gift. You can, and for me, I learned so much about our government system and how it's set up because of the pandemic. I've been reading about Congress, the House of Representatives, how it was set up when our founding fathers set up the House of Representatives, how things have changed until now. And it kind of triggered that natural curiosity because what the government does affects the world around us, right? And so hence the pandemic and everything that has happened. And so there's like a rebirth of honor for the government because we now know how much their decisions affect us. Okay, so we are in the world, but not of the world. And because we are in it, it affects our living on earth, right? And so know who you are voting for, know who you are supporting, and read a couple of articles every day. And intelligently, it will, all the knowledge, things that you need to know about the world around you, it will all start to make sense because we may not like it, but the world was decided in the government, it affects our church too, which is now in schools. You'll probably see it in youth ministry. You'll see it in our churches. What is decided in government, you'll see it. The pandemic, it hit everybody, not just the people in the world. It hit everybody. So it's good to have an understanding of the world around you. And I was
Absolutely. And that's a great comment, because with all 6 categories, I'm going to keep this train moving here. And this is good. Believe me, this is good. This is good. But it's so interesting how all of them intersect. And if you think that you're going to just have one category that's not affected, or just going to just be okay, it just won't happen. Let me read this thing. And then Cody, I'm going to have you start addressing the physical. I'm not saying that you're not intellectual. I ain't coming for you, my brother. I know you're intellectual, but I want to tap and see. I can joke with him. I don't know if I can do it with anybody else. But I want to at least tackle all 6 in this hour that we have. And I know we only got about 25 more minutes. But let me just say something real quick of why we need to be concerned intellectually about our children. Remote schooling, after it was finished in spring of 2020, white students were behind by 1 to 3 months. Black students were behind by 3 to 5 months. We have got to do something about this. I'm just putting that out there. And you've already heard some of the solutions, but this is why this is something that we have got to address, even moving into 2021.
Right.
All right. With that said, let's shift now to the physical. All right. Now, my brother, if you want to tack a little bit on intellectual, please go ahead. I'm not gonna touch your comments.
You're good. I'll just piggyback. Everything has already been said. Missionary Evangelist Ward and Derek and Reverend Derek Scott. I mean, I think they nailed it on the head. I just would like to add, just like you said, stretch yourself. Something that I try to do is I try not to drink my own Kool-Aid. And what I mean by that, anything that I have weakness in, I try to learn more about. Yes, I'm a believer, but I read authors who are agnostic and I read authors who are atheists because I want an appreciation for humanity. I don't want to be a know-it-all. I'm not doing this to go to Starbucks and buy $10 coffees. I'm doing this because I believe God is diverse and he's the creator of all humanity. So something that I would just add in that is that, it starts at home. What COVID did was just uncover a lot of the disparities that were already existing, and therefore it manifested itself. But as a parent, I'm not one, but I do believe I will be one day. Something that we have to make sure is our children are set up for success. Now let's move to the physical part, because that's where I want to talk about. So what question do you have for me, Dr. Shepard?
Well, what lessons have you learned in 2020? And if anybody who knows Cody, he is out there at least 4 or 5 days a week in the gym. Let us know how to be able to pump that iron. Even though I'm pumping it in my head. I'm not.
Look for me. Yeah, all my stuff is on my Instagram handle, CVMK33. I wanted. I didn't do it to create followers. I did it because I wanted to change the narrative. Growing up in the tradition that we grew up with, the physical element was never addressed, right? Like, matter of fact, if anything, you would have preachers preach against physical exercise, right? So for me, I didn't accept that as a status quo. I felt like I could love Jesus and have a 6-pack. I could love Jesus and bench 315. I didn't have to choose between the two. It was a false choice, right? So I just wanted something that I could stick with and really model myself around and really be a platform to really teach me life lessons. So I really got heavy into it. I've always done it, but I wasn't as disciplined in my diet. But 2020, I was like, look, I'm turning it up. I'm, no excuses, no church food. I went hard vegan for like almost 6 months. And then,
what's church food? Don't do that.
No church food. When we could gather before the pandemic.
Don't do that. Talk about what is church food. See,
church food, no greens and no. It was just tuna, oatmeal. I mean, a very lean, carved out diet. And I just stuck with it. And I think it's healthy for us to do that. I mean, we're all human, right? And something as a husband, I wanted to create more of a physical attraction, when you get married, you get comfortable, you gain weight, it is not always the most positive thing, right? And I wanted to increase the fire there. So I was like, well, there's a couple ways to do that, right? So I got, I dedicated myself, and my wife has been the ever more happier. It has been a blessing. I'm telling you, if you want to stop arguments, get your chest muscles up and your abs flattened, and all the stuff stop. No, but in all honesty,
I heard it here.
I said it here live. Get your six pack.
Come on, y'all need to share this right now. Y'all talk about that arguing.
You are a 6-pack away from a new anointing. I'm telling you. But look, but in all honesty, I think that the United States or the world is going through two extremes right now in health. I think you have one extreme that is doing it for the wrong reasons. You want the Instagram life. That should never be a motivation. If it comes, it comes, but you should never do that for that reason. And then you have the other extreme where it's like body positivity, which I'm all for, but it's like synonymous or B clause. Therefore, I don't have to change, right? And I think that's ultimately dangerous when you're dealing with comorbidities, you're dealing with high rates of obesity. As a human being, you just have to take care of yourself. You have one body. It doesn't matter how many times you pray and fast. You can cast out demons and still die of diabetes. God is not going to change order just because you love him. He is a respecter of principle, and you have to honor your temple. So for me, I just wanted to be that representative so that, somebody could connect and say, hey, yeah, he's a follower of Christ, but, he's a regular guy too. He goes to the gym, and that's something I aspire with. So I would say physically, stop making excuses and just do it. It's going to suck. I went to the gym today. Before I came on here, I was just finishing up leg day. My knees hurt, my legs hurt. I don't feel like running any more miles, but I'd rather do this than 20, 30 years from now. Now I'm fighting with my endocrinologist because I can't get my A1C down, right? So pay now so you won't have to suffer later.
That's awesome.
I don't even think we're talking about 30 years from now. I think we're talking about now, right? Where people who have pre-existing conditions are the ones who are being challenged by COVID-19, right? People who have high risk of heart disease, people who are overweight, right? So I think there's not just a sense of wanting to be alive 10 or 15 years from now, but are you prepared to tackle if you do catch a case of COVID? Are you in the high risk category? And so I think these are all things that are relevant and important of why we should want to take care of our bodies to be able, I got 7 kids. I want to be able to pick up my kids without my arm popping out of place or my knee going out as I carry somebody up the stairs, right? And these are all things that I think we can focus so much on these other areas, Dr. Shep, as you alluded to. All of these things kind of coexist together. I can be intellectually sharp and the sharpest person in the world, but if I'm not physically fit, and I'm not around to share that information with you, or I struggle to stand up for 30 minutes and give a speech or lecture because I'm short of breath, like what does it matter? And so I think, some of the things that we can do to sort of address it, because for me as an athlete, I was an athlete in high school, in college, and I know what it was like to have a regimen where you were forced to go to the conditioning room, work out with the weight coaches and all that great stuff. And then you get dropped into being an average Joe, so to speak. And now you got to motivate yourself to go work out. You got to motivate yourself to go get on the track. And so it can be difficult for the person who's physically fit as much as it is for the person who's never lifted a weight a day in your life. But simple things we can do is just get up from your desk, right? If you work from home, get up set an alarm, get up every 60 minutes, every 45 minutes, go stretch, walk around, go outside. During the summer, I was taking a 1-hour bike ride during my lunch break and just, kind of getting on a conference call or something and ride my bike if I knew I had a call that I didn't need to participate in, but just listen. I would ride my bike for 45 minutes or an hour. These are like just small things that we can do to kind of get ourselves in the mood, but we've got to address our health. We got to address our eating. Like Cody said, as much as I hate it, I don't eat fried foods anymore. I haven't messed with them in like 3 or 4 years. So now every now and then I can eat a little piece of fried chicken, but when I eat it, I know I've eaten a piece of fried chicken or catfish. Like I can feel it. Yeah. But these are things that once you make these changes, your body starts to feel a lot better. You start to do much better. You want to do better. and it just ultimately contributes to all of these other things that you're trying to do and making sure that you can move forward.
Absolutely. So look, we got 15 minutes, and we may as well go a little bit over, and we got 3 more categories. So we're gonna do 5 more categories. I mean, I tell you, y'all are hitting it. That's don't y'all just love this panel? I mean,
I was gonna say
yeah,
to add just one last point to what Derek and Cody was saying. I was gonna say simply go to the doctors and get a checkup. Go to doctors, get a checkup. Even if you don't like get a checkup, get a physical, do
yep.
blood work done or whatever. Take your children to the doctors. All those things.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for saying that. If you didn't go to the doctor in 2020, you need to go in 2021. Make that doctor's appointment. Don't be scared. Even I still have people coming into my office, even though I'm doing mostly virtual appointments or telehealth, but people are still coming in, and we just learned how to be able to adjust. And so thank you. I appreciate you for saying that. So let's move on to now the next letter, which is S, social. So anyone can start it out. What lessons did we learn? Yes, we've been told to socially distance. We've been told to physically distance from one another. What lessons have we learned, and what things should we be carrying into 2021 so that we can make sure that we're living well socially? Who wants to start out?
Well, I guess I'll jump in because I think I saw something somebody posted. I didn't see people this year cutting friends off this year on social media anymore like they did. I'm cutting people going into 2021. I'm cutting people because people realize now that they need people, and I think what we've seen is in such isolation. It's important for folks to check in on people. And I think so many times we look for individuals to call us. We say, well, you didn't call me, you didn't check on me, you don't love me. I think this is one of those times where we got to put our own feelings aside and we got to check in on people and be intentional about our social relationships. Socially, what are your goals? Some of your goals socially, and I do this with my children too. Every year I take them out on their birthday. Annually on their birthday, it's a date with dad. It's just me and that child, and we go through these SIP and Cs. We literally go through all of these goals. And I asked my son this year, I was like, "What's one of your social goals?" And what he said was sort of surprising to me. He said, "One of my goals is to make sure that I expose the people in my circle, my friends, to something different than what they see. I want to in a positive way." And when I asked him to expand on it, it really helped me to think about how different we are as people and how diverse of a group of individuals we come into contact with on a daily basis. And we assume people understand our cultural norms. We assume everybody understands what we mean when we say church food, right? Because we know we eat as church food, but what does the person next to us eat as church food? And so I think being able to break down some of these social barriers in 2020 is extremely important given the social context in our nation around politics, around race, around gender, sexual identity. And I think we need to start normalizing having conversations with people that are or taboo or that are hard and difficult to have. Because we have not had these conversations, it creates these tensions in our communities. It creates these tensions on our jobs. It creates tensions with the people we interact with. And frankly, it drives people into these depressive moods and modes because they don't feel like they have anybody that they can talk to about these certain types of things. And so I think the more we can normalize having safe conversation with individuals and being intentional with our social constructs, I think we should start establishing goals that allows us to move ourselves out of our comfort zones to say, this year as a Christian, I'm going to have a conversation with an atheist to understand, where they sit in the spectrum. As somebody who grew up in a predominantly Black community, I'm going to start having conversations intently with people who didn't grow up in the same community that I did. And I think as we can sort of expand and challenge our own social constructs and thinking. And I'm not saying that our social constructs are wrong and that we need to destroy them and tear them down. I'm saying the more we can understand other perspectives and intentionally expand our social constructs, we'll create a safer space for other individuals to engage us in that way.
Absolutely. Cody.
Yeah, I'd say I totally agree. Everything Derek said is absolutely correct. There's no room, not just for hatred, but I think we have to realize that we're all human, right? Sometimes we allow familiarity to bring about groupings, but the reality is just because we have something in common doesn't mean we'll be friends, right? What you start finding out is that, and especially in times of needs, skin folk aren't always kinfolk, right? So, you really have to get to people who share your purpose and your alignment on things, right? And you have to expand your reach. I will say I have probably been more helped from outside sources than from internal, I would say, familiar settings, right? During this whole pandemic, right? And that's because, we clicked on values and purpose, not necessarily identity. And another thing is we cannot allow the past to stop us from going forward in the future. And what I mean by that, we can't change whatever. We can't change the past. We can't change what has happened. But if we're not careful, we're really at a tipping point that we can go too far, right? When we start getting out of the realms of forgiveness and grace and mercy and learning how to extend past ourselves, we can become just as discriminatory. So we have to be able to really push past ourselves, really broaden our mind without giving up our own truth. And you can do that. You can do that in a very healthy way. And just don't get caught up into the hype. And I think if we do that socially, the world will be a better place.
Absolutely. Did you want to say anything, Aria, before we go on to the economical?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, after this quarantine or, in 2021, we might find that our circles may be different.
Yep.
Of what we've all been through, for whatever reason, your circle may be different because a lot has been exposed in here. And so that's what I would say socially, that because of the changes, you have changed. And if you're spending time with God, and even if you're not, even if you're not in that place with God yet, you'll see that you have changed. And so your circles probably changed.
Ooh, let me tell you, thank you. The last two times you just came right on and just got right to the point and just punch, man. You know what? And you're right. My circle has changed. I have to say that. The time and those who've listened to me on various other broadcasts, I've continually said that the Jonathan that you saw before the pandemic is not the same. There is a grit, there is a confidence, and there's almost even a aggression. And I'm not normally known to be aggressive, but I don't back off now like I used to. I move forward with confidence because I know where I stand. I've been reading more. And again, yes, I have been reading the word, the Bible. Yes, we talked about the spiritual aspects, but I've been reading more just scientifically. It's coming out in my speech. It's coming out in my writing. And again, it's not about trying to boast up myself or boost myself, but it's because I'm different. And my circle has changed. So thank you for saying that. And it's okay. Let me tell you, now you got me wild up now. It's okay if your circle has changed. Because you're elevating yourself. As you elevate and as you move forward in 2021, you don't want to stay stuck where you're at.
Right.
I was just talking about that with my brother, my natural brother today. We were just talking about some things that have changed in this year 2020. So you want to make sure that that you have moved forward and you're okay with the change in your circle. All right. Let me move on. That was good. Thank you. Now, economically, because the evangelist here, she already talked about it. She told y'all about spending money on Amazon, and so what lessons have we learned economically, and what lessons should we move forward with in 2021? Let me say this: there is such a disparity right now. The stock market, and Derek can speak to this even more, is at its highest it's ever been. But yet we're still having so many people who are suffering economically and financially. That lets you know that the wealth gap in this country continues to widen.
Right.
That thing disturbed me today as I saw where the stock market was at. And so many of us can't even get stocks. We don't even know what it is to have stock or have those type of investments. And yet they're at an all-time high, and yet our people are not living as well. Come on, help me out. Come on, help me out. Economically, what did we learn in 2020, and what do we need to do in 2021 to do better? Derek, you want to start us out?
Sure, but this is not fair because this is my wheelhouse, and I could be here all day. So I'm gonna try to be like concise. Ariel hit it right on the head, right? Don't be wasteful. So save, and this is, if you got a credit card, cut it up, right? At this point in life, let's eliminate debt, let's eliminate wasteful spending, and we're seeing that this is a cash economy. Cash is king, right? For people who are struggling, the reality of a $600 stimulus versus a $2,000 stimulus is a real thing that people are stressing over. And for some people, they can't understand why. Like, it's just $600. Well, just $600 is somebody's mortgage, or somebody's rent, is somebody's bills. Like, people are struggling to make ends meet. But I think the lessons that this has taught us is that you have to have a nest egg. You have to have a savings, an emergency savings, whether it's a 6-month savings that allows you to make it through, and then don't touch it. I saw a friend drop in the comment. I recommended a book called The Storehouse Principle by Al Jondal. I would absolutely encourage anybody to pick up that book. It changed my life. It was the reason I eliminated $120,000 in debt. I had a 5-year plan to do it, and I did it in 2.5 years. Right. Wow. And never look back, have never looked back. I don't do debt unless I'm leveraging debt for additional cash. And I did all of that on a $48,000 a year annual salary. So it was not a ton of money, right? So I think there are things that people feel like the only way I can invest in stocks is if, I've got a big balance sheet. I got to have MD behind my name like Dr. Shepard. And that is not true. You can start with a Robinhood account. You can start with a Fidelity account. You can start investing $5, $10 in states like Michigan. There's the Mile Act, which allows you not to have to be an accredited or sophisticated investor, but you can take as little as $100 and start investing. And what we've seen in the pandemic is that people with money have made money, right? People who have money are not going broke in the pandemic. And this is where biblical principles kick in, where in the parable of the talent, there was 3 talents given. The one who had nothing, he did nothing with it. His master came, took the nothing that he had and gave it to the one who had 10, right? And that's a principle that we continue to see, that people, the have-nots, continue to have what they have taken and given to those who have. So what's the solution? Start taking the little that you have and start building it, right? Start investing it, start putting it away, start saving. I grew up in a community, in a neighborhood that, is let's just use the word crappy. Nobody wants to buy property there. Nobody wants to live there. This is the perfect time to buy property there. This is the perfect time to own property there. While your block is crappy, buy the block. Right. Because we will complain 5-10 years from now when the gentrifiers or whoever comes in and takes over our neighborhoods. But when do we start making investments in our own things? And I think we can build value in our own communities by using our dollars to buy more than just a new pair of kicks, the new clothes, whatever popped up in Amazon because of our cookies telling Amazon that we have a propensity to buy it. Like, stop hitting buy, stop hitting 2-day shipping. Like, let's start putting away those dollars and start using them for real change and real investment. I think those are economic goals that we can begin to set, to say, where am I at today? Where do I want to be tomorrow? Where do I want to be in 5 years? And then just start doing it. You got to make a conscious decision to just start doing it.
Absolutely. Cody?
Derek hit it, man. Personal responsibility. What I do not want to see in 2021, and no judgment, but I'm gonna shoot the shot. You shouldn't go vacation anywhere exotic if you don't have an investment account. If you're getting, I know that's grammatically incorrect. If you're getting flued out, but you don't have, at least $1,000 in this investment or that, Shame on you, because you
You're
have
talking good.
a lifestyle over responsibility. Derek hit it. I mean, if you can afford Jordans, if you can afford 200 pairs of shoes, you can take the same money and invest. I mean, literally, like one of my, I would say, well-to-do stocks, Cosmere, they ship pharmaceuticals. They're actually a Greek-owned company. I think they're like $8 a share, but they have a pretty high dividend yield, right? Like you don't have to be this amazing guru or Warren Buffett. You have to be diligent. You have to be disciplined. You have to say, I'd rather have this that is going to accumulate wealth than the new dress, than the new shoes, than the new iPhone. And if you do those things over time, you will be successful. But if you're not ready to play the long-term game, if you're more impressed with looking good than being good, you're going to always stay impoverished. So there is a self-responsibility that you have to take. You have to own the process, and you have to exercise discipline.
That's right. That's right. And just to add to what Cody and Derek is saying, this is actually my husband's area. He's a great manager of money. He actually helped me with that. But what I would say is to make the best financial decisions for your family right now. Like I said at the beginning, try to save instead of spending, online shopping, pay off debts, credit cards while you have the time to increase your credit score, right? Because now you're setting yourself up for success and you're building generational wealth, because now you're setting yourself up to buy the new home that you always wanted. They say that CNN, I know they talk a lot about how people are losing homes and getting evicted, but this is also a very good time, just like Derek was talking about, to buy a home, to purchase a home, to be a homeowner, because the economy and it's down. And so what happens is, of course, you get beautiful homes for a very good price, simply put. And so set yourself up for that day, because I believe in 2021, it's still going to be a good buying market for homeowners and first-time homeowners that, really want to own their own home. And I've seen, young people, age of 20, 25, 30 years old, buying their own home during this time. So it is possible, it is possible to do. You just ask God for that discipline to pay off those debts, get that credit card, so you can, so God can bless your life.
Absolutely.
Can I add one more thing to that?
Yeah,
Because you mentioned generational wealth, and I think it's very important that we teach our children good economic principles as well. Every child in my house, and I mentioned my oldest is 12 all the way down to 1, every single child in my house that can talk knows about saving. My 12-year-old daughter knows what a cap rate is. She knows she can talk stocks. She can talk market. And it's because I've taken the time to make sure that she understands it and put her in entrepreneurship courses and so she has a business, right? And children can benefit. You know how many children have benefited from PPP loans this year, right? Because every child should own a business. If you have a child, they should own a business, and they should employ the other children in your family in that business as employees, so that they're on somebody's payroll, so that they understand what it means to have and build a business. And then you also, as a parent, can write that off on your taxes. And the income that they make up to $18,000 a year is not taxable if they're under 18. So these are ways that, right, you can start to build wealth for your children and your family. And I think these are things that, when we talked about the intellectual piece, right, these are things that we just have to start educating ourselves on. Pick up a book. How do I make that investment in my child? Are there YouTube videos or videos that I can watch instead of it for entertainment that I can now watch to sort of educate me, edutainment, so that I understand how to start making these type of investments and things into my children, into my family. If we start making some of these moves, we won't look for a $600 stimulus or $2,000 stimulus. If it hits, great. It hit. But if not, we made the right steps economically to position our families for success.
Absolutely. Oh, this is good. Man, this has been awesome. We got to deal with the last letter, E, which is emotional. And I know the panelists are like, well, Shepherd, you the one to answer this question. And yes, I will. And I wrote down a couple of things, but I want to hear from you. Again, I'm learning. I don't ascribe to say that I know it all. Yes, this is my wheelhouse, so to speak, but still, I want to hear. So, what things have you learned in your life, or have you seen in your family's life, or just wherever that we need to delete from 2020, moving into 2021? And what things should we keep as we're moving forward in the emotional realm? And this is an area that we'll continue to, chew on as we move forward in our different podcasts and broadcasts, I should say, in relation to this series. So, Ariel, do you want to start off first, just emotionally?
Emotional, I would say to seek grief, a lot of grief counseling, I believe will be necessary, and to seek the help that you need. It's okay to reach out. A lot of trauma has happened. A lot of things we couldn't control. People have lost loved ones, lost friends, family members, people you knew. It doesn't matter who you are, where you came from, right? Somebody knows somebody who lost somebody. And so I believe that grief counseling is a big one. Being able to kind of navigate those emotions all over again, and having a prayer life. That's what gets that's what gets me through. Having that prayer life and really praying, seeking God's face, and finding a therapist. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. They all work together. Yes, absolutely. Cody?
Yeah, I think Evangelist Ward nailed it. I think emotionally, you have to be comfortable with all of you. And I do mean all of you, right? I'm talking about that person that is not seen, that person that is not on shows like this, that person that is at their weakest, right? That person at midnight, right? And when you're able to really deal with who that individual is, and then seek the proper counselors or ways to go about healing, I think you'll be overall just in a better place, right? Some of the things that I had to realize is, and I mentioned it earlier, is that pride element, man. We like to believe that it isn't what it is, right? like this isn't a struggle, or this isn't an area of weakness, or this isn't a truth. But truth doesn't have to be the whole story, right? So I think when we're able to really just deal with our emotions and deal with our human frailties,
Right.
and own it, right? And I really mean own it,
Yeah.
and place yourself in groups that support that, not in a way to say it's okay to just continue, but in a way that I can improve upon.
Right.
You'll be the better for it. So none of us, and I do mean this, because right now I think suicide is at an all-time high. None of us should ever point at somebody and laugh.
Right.
And in any way, shape, or form, right? Like none of us we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're not disciplined. None of us is at a point where we can ever cast judgment, but we are at a point where we can help lead you to truth.
Right.
And I think if we embrace that and be servants, and it gets back to my servitude principle for 2021, emotionally we'll just be the better for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Derek.
I think a good. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
He said a word that really stuck out to me. He said proper help, seeking out proper. So
Yeah.
that's important. That's very
absolutely
important. A lot of people, a lot of imposters, and when you're grieving, sometimes it's very hard to discern who the proper grief counselors are.
Yeah.
You don't want to
So you messing with me. You messing with me. Absolutely. Yeah. Especially when you're grieving, because you have to watch your company. That's one of the things that's one of the things I teach, as I do these grief workshops. You have to watch the people who are mourning with you. Because people who are mourning with you are not necessarily with you. They're just there to see what piece they can get from you and take from you. And you have to be so careful. There's so many different illustrations I can give on that. But thank you. Derek, come on. And then I'm gonna share with you my last two tidbits. All right.
And I think y'all hitting it on the head. The few points I jotted down, I thought about Chadwick Boseman, right, who recently passed. And this kind of ties back to social. I think a lot of your emotional well-being is dependent on the people you have in your circle around you, socially. And when I thought about Chadwick Boseman, I said, I want to have friends like Chadwick Boseman, that like no one in the world knew that Chadwick Boseman was going through what he was going through, there were people on the outside who saw that he was, unhealthy. He was skinny. He was losing weight. Like, we mocked him on social media. People, to Cody's point, we should never laugh at anything because we don't know what people are going through. But whoever his system was, they were supporting him, and not only supporting him to the extent that they didn't leak his business, but also to the extent that at home he had some type of sense of security in his own mind to be able to still go out and act and give us and deliver us some great movies, even in the last days of his life. And I think that's so important that not only do we understand our own value first, but as we add people to our circle, that those people around us understand our value, because our emotional well-being is dependent upon us not looking for value in others, but understanding that value before they ever come. And I think that we're so in a generation of likes and Instagram likes and, posting Insta-worthy moments, that we look for that value in those moments and in those likes and in those shares. And I think we have to look for that peace in ourselves. And so for me, I think a sense of balance has become so important. My emotional balance just with my family and balancing that between work and family. It's why I have rules that protect my emotional psyche. Like, Tuesday night is date night with my wife. You can't call me. You can't bother me. You can't touch me.
Right.
Friday nights, if this had been at after 7:30, I wouldn't have been able to do it. Friday night is family night. We kicked that off at 8:00.
Gotcha.
Right. So there's always sort of this sense of protection around my own emotional well-being so that I can find balance and not overdo or overexert or burn my own self out. And then lastly, I've learned the value of a hug, right? In a period where we were air hugging people and we were kinda hugging people now and stuff. And it's, the value of a hug or just the social ability to touch someone and how that affects your emotional psyche. We should never take for granted the opportunity that we have to tell someone, I love you, to tell someone that I care about you, I'm concerned about you, because tomorrow they could be gone. They could take their life, and then you say, oh man, I didn't know that they were struggling with that. I would have let them know that I loved them. Well, even if you didn't know they were struggling, we should protect the well-being and the psyche of others and give folks some hugs and some love and let them know we love them.
Absolutely. Oh man, this is great. This is great. This is great. Let me just share with you a couple things, and then I'm going to tie it all together, put a nice little bow, and we're going to be done. So thank you for sticking with us. You all, the people are still sticking with us. That must mean that they are listening to what you all are saying. The numbers are still remaining high. So this has been excellent. Here are some of the things, just two quick things. I want y'all to hear me on this. Things that COVID-19 should permanently kill. Number one, toxic individualism. I'm going to say that again. Number one, toxic individualism. Right. Yes, that is what needs to be killed during this pandemic. Right. Shepherd, what you talking about? Oh, I can just go down the line. I got so many different arenas where I work at, from the ministry to the healthcare. All of it just needs to be killed, because let me tell you, when you are more focused about your individual needs, which we have seen so much this year, it has actually caused the death and the demise of so many. Now, you might say, well, they didn't physically die, but let me tell you, intellectually, they've died, spiritually, they've died, physically, I would just go right down all six. Because of toxic individualism. I got to have mine. I don't care about no one else's. We've got to kill that. Yeah. We cannot move into 2021 more or concerned more about us or ourselves than not our fellow brother, our fellow man. I've heard that. And thank you, Cody. You're saying that, you're emphasizing that so much about being the servant. And it can't just be about Black people. Right. Yeah, we got Black people here right now, but it just can't be about us. Yes, we're some of the most resilient people out there. Right. And sometimes we have to take up the mantle, even though we don't want to, for other races. But someone already said it. Just because we are the same skin color don't mean that we actually are in support of one another. And I know that is the truth.
Right.
And so we got to stop pulling each other down. We've got to lift each other up. That's why, I was telling them earlier on these type of broadcasts, I don't look to be the expert. I look to share the stage. I look to share the platform because, believe it or not, you all have helped me today so that I can even live better. So what do we have to get rid of? According to Shepherd, toxic individualism. Number 2, bureaucracy. The bureaucracy is killing us, y'all.
Amen.
The red tape. Oh,
Right.
I gotta cut it. Just unravel. Just get rid of it. The bureaucracy. Again, that is in all areas that I work in. There's just so much bureaucracy that's just it's stifling. It's choking us. I think Derek was talking about the growth that we could be experiencing, and he says that when you're not growing, you're dying. And that's what's happening. The bureaucracy that we have in so many of our areas is choking the life out of us. And I am tired of being a part of that. I don't want to be a person who is a part of toxic individualism. I'm doing my best in whatever I can do. And yeah, I know some people may never understand it, but let me tell you, you do what you're supposed to do when people don't understand. Oh man, let me tell you, because there's so many things that people will put a label on you, and because they don't understand it,
Right.
you have got to know that in those times you're okay, as
Right.
long as you know that you're following the calling, the passion that God has given to you to do, and you know it's in line with what He's called for you to do. You're okay. And people may not understand. Even sometimes supervisors and leaders don't understand, but you got to still do it. So make sure that those 2 things that were a part of the pre-pandemic era, that's what I call it now, pre-pandemic era, let's not carry it over. Toxic individualism
Right.
and bureaucracy. And there's so many other things, but those 2 things. We got to bring you all back. All right. It's already an hour and 16 minutes. I don't normally go this long, and the people are staying. So so they must be getting something
Right.
out of this. This has been excellent. We're going to do another time. I'm telling you, we're going to bring you all back. We're going to do a check-in just to see. And again, these persons who have been with me, Derek Scott, Area Ward, Cody Kelly, you see the talents. They're not one-dimensional. And I don't ever want you all to think, and I'm just speaking to you all now, and I'm going to do it even publicly. Don't ever think of yourself as being one-dimensional. There are so many different things. Yes, you are talented in your respective professions. You're talented in your family life. You're talented even in the ministry. But know that there is so much on all of those different levels that you're in that God wants to see you do exceedingly abundantly, more than you can even ask or think. And so I want to see you do well. I want to see you do even better than myself. I tell you, that is genuine because I'm at a point now. If I can't push you, if I can't help you, I'm definitely not going to hurt you. I'm definitely not going to hinder you because enough of that has happened already. And so let me just tell you all, this has been a wonderful show. We're going to live well. How? Spiritually, intellectually, physically, socially, economically, and emotionally.
And I was learning, Shepherd, that first one, spiritually, that's the foundation of the rest of all the other acronyms. So talking about that first it's in the right place. The spirit is in the right place. And so,
Absolutely. All right, so panelists, you all stay on. We're going to go ahead and end. This has been Ask the Doctors, Hope Health Systems. Again, this has been a wonderful kickoff to 2021. Please stay tuned. Please let people know every Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm here. Someone jokes at Shepherd, don't you ever take a break? This thing is not work for me. All right. This is not work. I love this. I don't like being in front of the camera per se, even though some of y'all will probably argue against that. But but let me tell you, I love it because it's helping someone. That's why I do this. That's why when people send messages, and I got some messages already, believe it or not, you all, people trying to reach out to figure out how they can do better for this coming year. Isn't that something? Just because of what we talked about. Hope Health Systems, that's my point. We're here to help you. HopeHealthSystems.com, 410-265-8737. Out in Woodlawn, Maryland. We'll do you some good. If you're having some issues in any of those 6 areas, we can help you. All right. Take care. God bless. We'll see you next Friday for another Ask the Doctors broadcast.
You. Bye-bye.